All right, welcome to episode 27 of the Rainier Strength Pod. I am here with Travis McKinney. Travis McKinney has a 2662 multiply total with an 1124 squat. That is 1,124 pounds. Travis has competed with the best of the best, including Dave Hoff, an elite WPO competitor, recently got into single ply after a long time off. So without further ado, Travis, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How have you been?
Good, man. Thank you. Absolutely. So this meet here, dude, it was on April 11th of this year, 2026. You competed in the 242 class, weighed in at 235. Now, you had been out of single ply for a while at this point. Talk to me about kind of the prep for this meet, what the thought process was behind getting into single ply. Was it kind of abrupt or was it something that was planned, and kind of how this meet went for you? Were you satisfied with your performance?
I was satisfied with my performance. I think it probably went about the best that it could have. I really don't know how it could have gone any better, if I'm being honest. It was a best case scenario all the way around. It was my first time since I was about 16 going 8 for 8. So I'm incredibly happy about that. Nobody's going to complain about a perfect day. Very happy about that. This meet was a motivator to do everything I haven't done before. I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of things that I haven't done before or have taken some time off. Starting from the very beginning. So I used to coach high school. I used to coach at the high school level. I was head coach at one of the local high schools. And we had a really solid group of kids. And they're still solid. The kids are still awesome. Very solid group of kids. Well, they graduate, they become seniors, they graduate, they go to college, they move away, kids grow up, they do their thing. I still stay in touch with a couple of them, and one of them came back. He came to train with us. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I just signed up for a meet. Could you help me out?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll help you out. No problem." Um, we had actually measured him for some overkill equipment in January 2025. I believe he was just leaving for college then, or maybe that was his second semester. I don't remember. But we had measured him January 2025, and he got his equipment, never put it on, never did anything with it, and reached out to me at the very beginning of January 2026 and said, "I have a meet in 3 weeks. What do I do?" And I said, "Well, you need to get in that suit. So let's get in the suit." He had been messing with the bench shirt a little bit. So good. He's not at a ground zero for that. He was very new to deadlifting in the suit. But he tried getting that squat suit on, and it would barely go above his thighs. I mean, he could barely pull it up at all. And we come to find out he is not the same person he used to be. He put on a little bit of weight. I think he actually cut down a little bit after that whole incident. But he's not used to tight equipment. I am used to tighter equipment, and his measurements were not too far off from mine. And I wanted to try to slip into it, see if I could make anything happen, stretch it out. And I put it on that very first day, and I don't remember. I think I worked up to 705 and 100 pounds of band, 805 at the top at the pick. I felt muscles working that I hadn't felt in a very long time. And it occurred to me that it's been 5 years that I've been in multiply. Now, if you look at my open powerlifting, I have it open on another screen here. But if you look at my open powerlifting, I started out single ply. Throughout my undergrad, I went into raw lifting. I was training at a YMCA, so I just did what I could. That was predominantly raw. Moved to where I'm at now, and I had access to different facilities. I could get into multiply equipment, and I had always wanted to do multiply. It's been 5 years. I've been doing it. So it's time to switch and do something different for at least a short period of time. And when I tossed on that single ply squat suit, I realized that no, this is probably the direction I need to go. I probably need to do some sort of single ply just to switch it up. This is truly for self-development. I'm trying to do things as an athlete that I haven't done before or have taken some time off from doing. So I had a really good squat day, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I just do a training session or training cycle with your suit? I can stretch it out for you." And he said, "Absolutely, no big deal." So I get 3 sessions into it, and I get 2 or 3 sessions into it and realize that I didn't make a total in 2025. There's any chance for me to do the WPO in the fall, and it's at this time, and I'll even say it publicly, at this time, there is no guarantees. There's nothing on the books. I'll try to make it work if I can, but there's a lot of other things going on. So you heard it here. You heard it from me. You heard it today. There's no guarantees, but I'll try to make it if I can. In order for me to have the chance to go to the WPO, I have to get a qualifying Glossbrenner because I didn't place in the top 3 last year. So I looked at the numbers, I looked at the gloss, and I am capable. My strength was capable of doing that in single ply, of hitting the minimum gloss. So you took this as an opportunity to do that. I had his squat suit. I currently do not have an overkill single ply squat suit. Um, I had access to his. I had a single ply open back bench shirt, which is Generation One, the original material from Overkill. That I have heard a couple of times that Rudy is trying to mimic that material, and it's unique. We haven't been able to replicate it, but I had that original material that I eventually grew into. I bought it in like 2016 off Facebook Market, and so it's just been laying around. I had that, and we have a conventional deadlift suit that I was able to squeeze into. It is not built to me. It is not my measurements, but it was tight enough that I could make it work. And I've had a couple of low back and I'm not even gonna say injuries, but if you do the sport for a long enough time, you just get stress. Stress accumulates. Stuff happens to your body. I'm not even gonna say the real injuries. It's just I've been driving the car for too long, for a very long time. I have never pushed my conventional, or it's been a very long time since I've pushed my conventional. I've hit numbers. I've hit a conventional deadlift that I was happy with. I pulled 700 raw mixed grip back in 2022, and I took this as an opportunity to do things I haven't done before. My back had been getting weaker. I recognized that I needed to change it. If I want to keep pushing the numbers that I'm doing, I need to build my weak points. Conventional deadlift is a very strong weak point. Pun intended, strong weak point. It's a very significant weak point. My goal was to pull over 700 conventional in competition, and I was able to make it work. Everything, the stars aligned, the iron gods blessed me that day. I took my electrolytes that morning. That's not a joke. I actually did take my electrolytes that morning. Yeah, it was a perfect day going into the meet, actually going into the meet itself. So that was how we got into it. Was I wanted to do something I hadn't done before. I had an opportunity to use a squat suit. I didn't have access to a single ply squat suit before. Um, I needed to make a total. From making that total, I decided to pull conventional because my back was getting weaker and I needed to build that up. So everything just kind of came to light all at the same time.
And do you have, so for your single ply stuff now that you've kind of tested the waters with that a little bit in recent time and it's fresh on your mind, do you now have kind of a single ply total or one lift goal that you really want to hit that's kind of egging at you? Or are you kind of like, look, if I can make time for the WPO, I'm going to go there because that's where the show is? How are you thinking about that?
Um, I am so many different ways that I can answer it.
Yeah.
The short of it, and I make this a very long and drawn out answer because it is multifaceted the way that my mind thinks.
Yeah.
But the short of it is I don't have any hard goals right now. My goal is multiply. My goal is multiply. I've been very open. I really want to bench 400 kilos at 220, and I really want to take the 220 total record. I have had 2 times that I thought I was strong enough. I thought it was going to be there that day, but it wasn't there that day. I need to make it happen. I want to hit those totals. I want to hit those numbers. That's my goal. I have the squat record. I want the total in the bench. Deadlift. We're not going to talk about deadlift. We're not going to talk about it. But yeah, my overarching, by and large, my goal is the 20 total record. It's not been a secret.
Okay.
Now, how I get there, that's a different conversation. How I get there, it might take a couple of years. I wanted to make a run for it before. I did make a run for it. I missed it. So now it's time to take a step back and look at my training and look at where are my weak points. I feel like and again, I've been a multiply for 5 years. I have not really deviated. You can only stick with something for so long before you're on borrowed time. And I recognize that. And I don't think I'm going to hit that total, tomorrow. It requires prep. And if I'm being realistic, if you put me in the canvas, you put me in the multiply briefs again, I am probably not at an 1100 squat right now as we're talking today. So it requires prep. I need to build up to that. I need to take some time and build up those weaker points. I need to take time to build up those weaker points. So pursuing single ply was a way to do something I'd never done before. I have thoughts on how I want to get there. And and I'm going all over the place, but the question was, do I have single ply goals? No, single ply is the tool that I'm using right now to get me closer to multiply, get me closer to that multiply total. I just had a really good single ply meet where I did not cut. And where my mind is sitting right now, Everything can change. I'm not saying anything is set in stone, but where my mind is sitting right now is I probably should do a multiply meet where I don't cut and see how consistent I can get. Can I make a 7 for 8 day or an 8 for 8 day in multiply? 8 for 8 would be ideal, obviously, but can I do a 7 for 8 day or 8 for 9 day that day if I want to take a third squat? The goal is that 220 multiply total. How do I get there? I have to just keep chipping away at different things until I get there. So single ply is the stepping stone to get there.
And I think one of the most interesting things about you is that you kind of, at least in a lot of people's minds, I've talked to a lot of people that compete at the WPO, and more than one person had told me Travis is the heir apparent to Dave Hoff. Once Dave Hoff removes himself from this equation, which it looks like in 2025, perhaps he decided to, Travis McKinney is kind of next in line right there. And I don't think that's any more apparent than in 2023 when you took second place to him. So tell me about kind of competing alongside Dave Hoff, seeing obviously Westside versus the World. A lot of guys are like, Louis called him the Michael Jordan of multiply, right? It doesn't get any better than that. So tell me what that's like competing alongside him. Did you have any jitters kind of going into that? And what was your mindset during that time in 2023?
My mindset is it's a second place meet. It is. It's a second place meet. Hoff is going to win. If you look at the WPO Glossbrenners, ever since it came back, 2018 and onward, Hoff's worst day, and I used to know these at one point, I don't remember, but I think Hoff's worst day was like 689, if I remember right. I could be off. The next highest, so, and I had a 705, I had another 700 day in there. The next highest was 670, I think it was 672 or 677. Regardless, nobody else has beaten Hoff's worst day, period. Like, nobody else has done it. Even if Hoff has a mediocre day, even if he goes 4 for 9, 5 for 9, right? He does not have to have a perfect day. I'm probably not catching him. And I'll be realistic. I'll be honest about it. He can probably do a 700 plus gloss on 4 attempts if he wanted to, if he had to. So, and I want to say that 689 is when he tore his hamstring and had a 600-pound deadlift. So do I feel intimidated by Hoff? What is it like competing against him? I don't even think about it because I'm not catching him. We're in 2 different ballparks. He is a league ahead of me. And I mean, there's other people I'm more worried about than Hoff. Hoff's got it. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all.
So in speaking of the WPO, I've often called it the Super Bowl of multiply. Some people disagree with that statement. That's fine. I don't care. You're objectively wrong, but that's okay. So tell me about the first time that you walked into a WPO. Was it kind of like a, lack of a better term, like holy shit moment, like I'm here, or this is just another meet and I'm going to slam it and kill it?
That's a great question. Kind of is just another meet. I really do the best I can to not get in my head. I feel like I do a good job about that. One of the strategies, one of the things that I do is I'm not that heavy of a person. I've had a prior, I'm not even going to say career, but prior decade in the Army where you had to run all the time. I still walk on a regular basis. I do a little bit of cardio. My cardio is not the worst. I'm not going to say I'm a marathon runner. I'm not the best, but my cardio is not the worst. I don't need an oxygen tank, but I bring one with me anyways. I bring the canned oxygen at the meet. The full intent behind that is to lower my heart rate. Is so if my heart rate goes too high, bad thoughts start coming in, and now you screw yourself out of the lift before it even happens. I pay $9. I go down to Walgreens. I pick up the Boost oxygen tank and carry it with me. I take a couple of hits on it before I go up for the attempt, and it lowers my blood pressure. And I just don't even have to think. All I think about is making sure my body is positioned where it needs to be. If my body is positioned where it needs to be, if my knees are out, if I'm squeezing my glutes, if I'm pulling down on the bar, doing the best I can to bend that bar over my shoulders, if I'm staying tight and the muscles are activated in the right coordination, I'm confident I can make that lift. Now, actually doing it is a whole nother story. But if it falls into place, I'll make that lift. I don't get all jacked up on nose torque or smelling salts. I don't do all that stuff to clear my head. I use an oxygen tank, which lowers my heart rate, lowers the stress, lowers the anxiety, and that clears my head. So I'm very calculated when I go out there.
And do you ever get kind of like, when you start taking these big weights, especially something like 1124, right? When you look at it on paper, that number is just preposterous. It's ridiculous. And then you realize that someone's skeleton is under that. So do you ever get kind of nervous about or anxiety getting under any of these big weights, or have you done it for so long now? It's part of the process.
The most nervous that I was actually the 11-13. And so to answer your question, without beating around the bush, to answer your question, yes, I get nervous. Obviously, I get nervous. Everybody does. If they tell you that they don't, they're lying to you. Everybody gets nervous to some extent. What level of anxiety or nervousness that is, everybody's different. Yes, I get nervous. I still get under the weight. I recognize, and I play two situations in my head every single attempt. And even in training, I do the same thing. We all have anxiety. We all get scared. It happens. This is career-ending weight that we're all doing. Even if you're doing 600 pounds, I've seen people get hernias under a 600-pound squat before. A hernia could be career-ending. Like, all of this is a massive deal, and I don't care who you are. We're not going to fake it. It's a big deal. So the two situations that I run through my head are, I can either under the weight and smoke it, or I can walk away. I can turn around, take my knee wraps off, and say, nope, I'm scratching this attempt. I'm done. No big deal. Well, that kind of is a big deal. No, I'm not going to turn around. I'm not going to be there at the meet. I'm not going to be there at the meet and just turn around and quit. That is one option. I'm going to go out there and do the best that I can. We have an entire crowd. We have an audience, even if it's 20 people. You have a number out there. You have your name on the backdrop behind you, or the overhead projector. I'm not just going to quit while I'm in front of them. But that is the other option. You either do it or you don't. And if you don't, you got to live with yourself. If you do it, you better make sure you do it right. So, do I get scared? Absolutely. Am I going to quit? No.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And with you being a lot more methodical with the process of how you approach meets, how you go into things, some people overlook meet day nutrition. I see a lot of people that might just have they got the gummy bears and they got the Rain energy drink or Full Throttle, and but they don't have any substance. There's no real food there. So what kind of effort do you put into your nutrition the day of the meet? Because a lot of people don't talk about nutrition actually the day of the meet. What are you consuming at the meet as far as liquids and food go?
Salted mashed potatoes. By and large, be all end all, salted mashed potatoes. When you're after you go through the warm-ups, you take your pre-workout, has caffeine, probably has DMHA in it, or other stuff. But you have all these stimulants in your system, increases your metabolism. Your metabolism's going on overdrive. You go through the warm-ups, you are doing a workout, you are lifting, your metabolism has increased. You can eat. The way your digestion works, the more broken down a food is, the quicker it goes into your system. If I have a liquid, like a Gatorade or a Powerade, it'll go into my system very quickly. And I've already warmed up, or I'm warming up, theoretically. I'm warming up. I've already taken my caffeine and other stimulants. My metabolism is on overdrive. If I drink a liquid, it's going to be in my system very quickly. If I take something that's not a liquid, it's not a solid, but it's more solid, something that's already broken down, mashed potato, that also gets in your system very quickly. And we can talk about glycemic index, another part of the conversation too. And then solids will be a little bit more longer lasting. It just takes more time to digest. We're talking about minutes here. In which case, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I always bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with. But mashed potatoes, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Powerade. I usually bring some sort of salt or salt. Those are kind of the tried and true, the overall be all end alls for me. Everything else can vary. Some meats I might be more into gummy bears, might bring some gummy bears, might bring some rice cakes. Usually we bring a cooler that has a little bit of a variety, but that is mostly the reason for the variety would just be palate. It's what tastes better.
Yeah.
As long as I can make an argument for it for being performance enhancing, then I go to flavor.
Yeah. I like that you brought up peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, because the last meet I had, my most successful meet, I ate 3 of them, and I felt great. I felt awesome, dude. And it was one of the first times where I'm eating real food. Other than that, I'm just eating crap at the meet, and I'm like, oh no, it's good, dude. Trust me. But then it switched to real food, especially like you said, salt and stuff, and I felt great, felt unstoppable, But with the multiply stuff, do you think that multiply right now as a sport, just kind of as a whole, is in a point where it is growing, receding, or kind of staying the same? Because I've seen kind of a little bit of a boom in the single ply, especially the messages that I get on here and stuff, especially through the IPF and stuff like that. How do you feel about multiply as a sport? Do you think it's growing or kind of just staying stagnant?
I hope this isn't a loaded question.
No.
it is multi growing, staying stagnant? Is it decreasing? I don't know. So the answer to this question can be identified or can be figured out, can be identified through open powerlifting. We sort through it. We can track over time. I
Mm.
haven't done that, so I don't. The answer is I don't know. What I suspect is multiply is staying relatively stagnant with a very slight drop. Um, with the addition of the unlimited community, raw lifters are not going to unlimited. Raw lifters are either staying raw or going to bodybuilding. They're not going to unlimited. Maybe they're taking up jujitsu. I don't know. But multiply lifters are the ones who are going over to the unlimited. So that is the as small as multiply is, that is the talent pool that is tossing on the band shirt. I would not imagine, and the single ply is a very small community, largely only in the IPF and USAPL. We have a very, very small talent pool outside of those two federations. Those people are not going to multiply. Again, they're either going to bodybuilding or jiu-jitsu or marathon running or something. I don't know. But they're not going to multiply. So multiply is not growing from a neighboring talent pool. The people who are in unlimited are, I'm going to say stereotypically, usually a little bit more on the broken side and don't and have already done their time in the band or in the poly shirt. The unlimited lifters have already done their time in poly and have moved on to band shirts. There's not really a talent pool that multiply is pulling from. Maybe it's the one or two people in the gym who see you from afar. That's really who they're pulling from. I don't know if it's decreasing, but it's probably not increasing very quickly. Um, yes, there's people who bounce back and forth between unlimited and poly. They bounce back and forth. I don't know if multiply is really growing, but I wouldn't say it's dying. I wouldn't say it's growing. Probably staying stagnant with very slight drop.
Yeah. Another thing I was curious about was I'm always fascinated with the bench shirt, right? And, I've heard some people like Jimmy Kolb where he says, I love the single ply super katana. And then he went over to the multiply bench shirt and was like, I don't like this at all. His single is actually higher than his multi. So for someone
Mhm.
like you, do you see a big difference in your single and multi? Because it looks like it's about, give or take, 100 pounds difference, right, between your single and your multiply. So would you say that you have one preference over the other as far as the shirt goes? And does your form change a lot when you go from single to multi, or does it stay about the same?
My form stays. I try to keep my form I'll put it that way. I'll try to keep it about the same. Um, when you're fighting three layers compared to one, three layers is more difficult to fight through. So there might be a little bit more breakdown on the multiply side than the single ply for me. And again, I've done one prep in the last. I'd have to count the years, but I've done one prep in maybe the last 12 years single ply. So I am not the expert to ask on that one. Now, if we're talking about so bringing up Jimmy
Mm.
and love Jimmy, he's one of my favorite people ever. I talk to him periodically. I'm not gonna say all the time, but I talk to him periodically. Um, Jimmy is fantastic. His single ply compared to multiply, you made the comment he tried multiply, didn't really like it, goes back to single ply, outbenches his multiply. Uh, have you ever heard him talk about his rationale behind that?
No, I just heard the comment.
So he has a video out there somewhere, maybe it was a live, but he has a video somewhere out there. He was explaining if you have a single ply bench shirt, it is going to stretch a lot more than a multiply bench shirt. So if you have a single ply shirt, you can keep it much tighter. Um, for our audio listeners right now, I'm holding my thumbs up on my chest, doing the same thing Jimmy did. Um, for a single ply shirt, you can keep a really small collar, and as R comes down closer to your chest, that material is going to stretch further and further apart until it just doesn't. And then either the shirt rips or it just doesn't touch. It just stays stagnant. But that single ply collar or chest plate rather just keeps stretching and stretching and stretching. Whereas to load a similar amount of weight in multiply, it's just not going to happen. Nobody benches that much to do multiple layers to stretch to that same extent. You inherently have to have a larger chest plate in multiply than single ply. So if you have a 4-inch chest plate in single ply, you're probably having a 5.5 inch or something similar in multiply to make that same shirt work. That means multiply does not stretch nearly as far as single ply does. It'll have a very small stretch compared to single ply has a big stretch. That added stretch in single ply can provide greater rebound than the rebound in multiply. Think about how big your bench has to be to get to that point. Jimmy benched 950 at 242 in single ply. In single ply, which is the multiply record. Um, I think I got that right. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's right. I believe he benched over 11 in single ply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and his meet recap after that, I think he's like 1,050 or 1,030 or something. That example where the shirt just keeps stretching and stretching until it doesn't. He got to that point. The shirt just quit stretching on him, and he couldn't touch. That's how tight his shirts are. Nobody else is doing that. Very few other people are lifting to that extent. They can get the shirt to stretch to its fullest. You can get the shirt to stretch to its fullest. So the difference between, yeah, you can probably get a single ply shirt to outperform multiply, but you have to be at that kind of level. I'm not to that level. I get a lot more out of my multiply, and I do keep my equipment, I'm gonna say relatively loose, because I can absolutely get it tighter. But with tighter equipment, your form better be locked in. And the way that I view it is you tighten your equipment as your form gets better. And I'm right to that point where I don't want to tighten it up. I don't want to tighten it up any further. I view it as still learning, still trying to get my technique down in the equipment that I'm using. If I get it even tighter, something is going to break down, and I don't want my form to break down under this kind of weight. Like if we're talking bench, I'm in the low to mid eights right now. I don't want my form to break down with 840 pounds. So I keep my equipment marginally loose, just a little bit loose. It's all relative.
Yeah. And I remember there was a table talk with Dave Hoff where he was talking about growing into the shirt and how people just, they buy too much equipment too frequently instead of just utilizing the equipment that they have. And I've found that from a lot of people, because my super katana as well is like pretty loose. But for me, my mindset is like, well, I just have room to grow then. Like I could just grow into it, right? I don't see
That
a
is
reason to get an
100%
entirely
it.
new shirt. Yeah. It doesn't make
Yep,
any
that
sense to
is
me to
100% it.
Yeah. So the other thing I was curious about, so your squat form is crazy. I mean, it's great. It's very technical. It's very precise. You can tell, especially for multi, because there's some people that I look at when they squat. It's like, man, that is a multiply squat, like it's built for multi. So when you were competing raw, was your squat stance always that wide, or were you more close when you were raw? How did that look? Was it an easy transition from you to get into the multi because of how your squat stance already was?
So if you look at the years that I was lifting raw, I was very young. I think it was 21 to 25 or 26, if I remember right. It was something like that. 19. No, I was 19. I actually have it up right now. Yep. At age 25 is when I wraps meet. So I was still learning. I was still learning how to lift. I was still learning what my form was. I had about 10 years behind me, but I just lifted. I didn't try to really dial things in until I got to that point. So the question is, have I always squatted the way that I do? The answer is no. When I first got introduced to powerlifting, I'm talking 14 years old. When I first got introduced to powerlifting, I was introduced by guys who were multiply, and they always just pushed heels wider than your hips, take a wide stance, knees out, and stay a little bit more upright, sit back. Very hamstring, very glute dominant, very hip dominant. So I always have squatted like that, but I've never been, up until recently, I haven't been as wide as I am now. I actually brought my stance in a little bit further when I was single ply transitioning to raw, I brought my stance in a couple of inches, tried to be a little bit more knee dominant as opposed to hip dominant to my squats. I never really got it to work. I always felt stronger raw, even though I kept trying to bring my stance in. I might have misspoke. I always felt stronger wide, and when I was raw, I would narrow my stance. I'm trying to think about the order that this all happened. I was trying to learn how to deadlift. Thankfully, I grew up in a time that in 2013, even back in 2013, we still had smartphones. I had a phone that had access to the internet. Actually, that might have been 2014 when I got it. So 2016, 2015, 16-ish, I'm at the gym, Stevens Point, Wisconsin area YMCA at the time, and trying to learn how to deadlift. And so I pulled up videos of Andre at the time. The mentality was trying to find somebody who was at my weight class, roughly my height. That's also important. My weight class, my height is at the top of the game. Somebody who I think has perfect form at the highest level with my build. And Andre Belayev was that person at that time. And so I tried to do everything that I could to mimic his form. His adductors, his hips were much more mobile than mine were. So I knew that was a deficiency that I had. I needed to get more mobile hips. I had a whole routine that I did to try to increase the mobility. Regardless of what every bachelor's of exercise science has to say, I did a little bit of dynamic stretching, but I also did static stretching before deadlifts. My thought was if I couldn't get my knees in the position as wide as they needed to go, if I couldn't get my knees as wide as they needed to before deadlifting, you want to build that mobility and then reinforce that range of motion. Build the range of motion, reinforce the range of motion. If I couldn't get my knees in the position that I needed to before actually deadlifting, I'm reinforcing a bad movement pattern. So I will sacrifice weight. I understand that static stretching before lifting we all say it's a no-no. I did it anyways, so I could get into position and reinforce it. Now, one of the accessory movements that I did would be an ultra vertical torso high bar box squat, and it was a little bit above parallel. It was above parallel or above depth to powerlifting standards, probably 2 inches above. But it was to the point where I would feel my hips getting to their end range of mobility, and I had just deadlifted, the weight is in front of me, and now I'm trying to squat, the weight's in my back. Now I'm trying to squat the same position that I was deadlifting in. And I would sit on a box. This is before I learned anything about West Side, before I studied anything Louis related. I would try to sit down on that box and explode back up just like I was deadlifting. That was actually how I got into conjugate, into the whole into Louis' teachings. I don't even want to say into West Side because you're not West Side unless you're there, but into Louis' teachings was the style of training that I had prior to learning what conjugate actually was very similar to conjugate in the first place. So I had a seamless transition. But going back, I would do very vertical torso, high bar, ultra wide box squats, a little bit high. And at the time, my raw squat was 605. I squatted 585 for a double in what I thought was a very weak stance, one of my weakest stances. And I'm like, if I'm within 20 pounds of where I was before, I probably should. I probably should get this thought out of my head that raw lifters are narrow and widen my stance up if I'm lifting raw. And then my squat actually blew up after that.
Yeah. And you brought up a real interesting point, which is apparent with your squat form, which is mobility. Is mobility something that you work on? Like a lot of people will leverage recovery modalities, right? Whether it's like ice baths or whatever they're doing, active recovery. Are you working on your mobility like during your days off, or are you still doing like that static stretching before you work out right now? Or have you built your mobility to a place where it isn't really necessary at this point in your career?
This is a nuanced, everything is going to be nuanced, by the way.
Yeah.
We're 35 minutes into this. I'm going to preface now by saying everything is going to be nuanced. I can say one thing here, and then somebody can look at my training and say, well, you're doing different over here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, both are right. Do I work on mobility? Yes, absolutely. Do I have to work on my hip mobility? It's pretty well locked into where it's going to be. It's pretty well locked into where it's going to be. When I put briefs on, I can open my hips a little bit further than with the briefs than raw. So I don't really need to work on my mobility, my hip mobility a ton anymore. And there is a point of diminishing return as well. There is a point of diminishing return. Yes, I work on mobility, just not my hips.
Okay. And before you work out, how are you getting warmed up? Is it like let's take it through a squat day. Are you going, are the jumps like plate? Are you doing anything before that, like a winning warm up where you're running through sets of 25, maybe on like a leg extension or something like that, goblet squat, something like that? How are you warming up for these giant squat sessions?
So this is something I've been experimenting with, and my answer is going to change based on when you talk to me.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, it should. Nothing should ever stay the same forever. Things should change over time. It, I've done periods where I don't do a ton of warm-ups. I just do a little bit here and there, a couple active dynamic stretches. I'll do a couple of exercises and then just get into it. And that's fine. I actually didn't feel too bad doing that. I did that a lot in my 20s and things felt pretty good. I really didn't complain. I was also in my 20s. I've even done that a little bit recently, not the end of the world. As long as you do just enough. Where I'm at now is I actually run through most of my accessories. I run through most of my accessories for 1 to 2 sets of 15 to 20-ish, and that loosens me up a lot. And then I'm already ahead of my accessories. So if things are if they're getting pushed, if I need to be a little bit more timely at the end of my main movement, I already have half my accessories done in my head. So, for example, we have 30 yards of turf. So I'll do lunges up and down the turf as soon as I walk in the gym. I might do leg swings first, but I do leg swings, forward, back, side to side, and then I'll drop my quad. I'll do forward, back again, and drop my quad on the way back up and get a very slight stretch in my quad. Go into lunges. I'll probably do 2 sets of 12 to 15, closer to 15 pull-ups, or I'll go and do 2 sets of pull-downs. Usually 2 to 3 sets of hamstring curls, leg extensions. I'll do the adductor abductor machine, 2 to 3 sets. Which, by the way, that is kind of the bread and butter, my tried and true accessories. So I do those most of my lower body days. Then I'll go squat. And which, by the way, that takes 30 to 45 minutes, probably closer to 45 minutes to do all those. If I feel like I need some more glutes, I might do clamshells. I'm actually trying to get into those anyways, whether or not I need them. Some days I might do like a Copenhagen plank. Copenhagen planks are fantastic, and I think everybody should be doing them. I need to do a little bit more of them. There's some days I might do the McGill 3. That's the McGill 3, and then I usually add a glute bridge in there as well, so I do 4. Sometimes I'll do reverse hypers to warm. It all depends on what I need for the day, but I have probably about 20 different movements that are all in rotation depending on what I need for that day. And this is going to be a very common theme with my training is I don't have any not going to say tried and true, but I don't have any like hard and set plan going in. It's what do I need for that day? And I usually have a goal that I have at the end of a training cycle or a block. I have a goal, numbers that I want to hit, and then I reverse engineer how do I get there and what do I need for that, and then what do I need for that day. So I kind of plan out the main movement, plan what am I going to do for the main movement of that day. Warm-ups are going to be how does my body feel that day to lead me to a good main movement. And then after the main movement, what is lacking, what feels weak, and that will dictate my accessories. Dietitians always talk about intuitive eating. I have very intuitive training, so it's not laid out ahead of time. It's very much as I go. I used to plan out, over 16 weeks at a time, and I would cross every T, dot every I, make sure everything was perfect. I could draw out the perfect training cycle. And what I realized was at no point, and I did this for years, by the way, there was not a single training cycle ever that I did, not a single one where I accurately predicted where I was going to be week 8 when I drew it out in week 0. The training cycles that I drew out were never perfect. They were never accurate when I looked far out. And I struggled to figure out why, but the thing that I was lacking, the thing that I was missing was day-to-day variations. I could never predict week 8, day 2, what my sleep was going to look like that day. I was never going to predict it. Some of it was back in college. Did I have a final exam the day before and all of a sudden my active recovery day gets skipped or very hindered, very abbreviated because I have a chemistry exam that evening? I'm talking a couple years ago now, but then I got more into intuitive training and I started hitting PRs meet after meet after meet after meet. And I'm not going to say I took my training less seriously, but it was less rigid. I was much more flexible in the movements that I actually did. It was what I needed for that day, for that week. It was what I needed to hit. My accessories turned into what did I need to hit the builder movement. Once the builder movement got to where it needed to go, then I could be comfortable ramping into a more of a competition movement or a testing movement, get the testing movement to the number that I needed, and then I'd be comfortable going to a competition number. And so it all builds on each other.
Yeah. And speaking of which, kind of piggybacking off that, the whole like warming up and just like conditioning aspect of it, you spoke about kind of being in the military, running, being already kind of conditioned, things like that. A lot of powerlifters, a lot of just people in general fucking hate cardio. Don't want none of it. Leave it out. I hate it. Just like ab train planks, leave it out. I want nothing to do with it. Keep it over there on that side. Roman Mustachio, shout out to Roman, talks a lot about his conditioning. He is a psychopath, so he likes the assault bike. For you, what does your conditioning look like? Are you doing that on your days that you're working out or training, or are you doing those on your days off? And what are you doing for conditioning, if any?
What I was doing, or what I have been doing, is we have the most adorable dog in the world, Remy the gym dog. Shout out if you follow her on Instagram, please do. We have the most adorable dog in the world. I usually take her for with the wife, so we try to take her out 2 to 3 times a day. We'll probably 2 miles, give or take. Probably about at least a half hour. I usually walk her 20 minutes per walk, and basic walking, right? Just around the block, basic walking. We try to pull the sled, which is I say sled, but it's a tire with an eyelet and toe straps. But we drag the sled. Honestly, I haven't even measured it out. It's my driveway to the manhole cover in the cul-de-sac. We just make sure we pass that cover, and it's long enough that it sucks. We try to drag the sled 1 to 2 times a week. If we get 1 day a week, we're doing pretty good. We try to get 2 if we can when the weather's nice. But otherwise, I do just get blood down. And some of the predictors of my blood work show very, very slight, and I mean very minor, hardening of the vessels. And heart disease does run in my family. So it's something that I am now cognizant of. Um, I don't want to say it's not an issue. It's probably 99% perfect right now, but it is just at that whisper that I need to listen to my body if I want to do anything long term, if I want to be healthy long term. So now I have just recently started adding in more steady state cardio 1 to 2 times a week and 20 to 30 minutes on the elliptical. That's it. That's it. But I'm trying to do more steady state cardio. Before it was just low grade walking and the sled.
Yeah.
Well, there's something missing if I'm not doing anything steady state. So for health reasons, I'm just doing a little bit of the elliptical now.
Yeah. And, those genetic predispositions can really sneak up on you,
Yep.
and because you feel great most of the time until you don't, right? So
Yep.
with that information from your blood work, did you also, did you modify your diet as well? Or is it just mainly adding in the steady state cardio, a lot more frequency of that?
We are definitely modifying my diet. And I'll actually give a shout out to Jenna Odziana. So and I apologize if I pronounced her last name wrong, but um, no, I've been working with Jenna. I just started, by the way. Like last week, we had our consultation. But she's the one that I'm trusting to run through my blood work, and I don't think she needs any kind of introduction. We all know who she is. She's a wizard when it comes to blood work. So I know many other people that have gone through her, and I would recommend her if anybody is looking. But she gave me a bunch of lifestyle suggestions. So we're going to be adjusting lifestyle habits. For me, the big dietary one was more fish. So we're now increasing the amount of salmon that we eat, which can add up, but we're getting cheap bagged salmon for right now. It's better than what we were doing before. Not eating it.
Yeah.
There's also canned options, which obviously going to a butcher or going to a meat market and getting stuff fresh off the ice is the ideal way to do it. But I'm not paying $40 for a fillet or $80 for a fillet or something. We're trying to take the cheap option right now because I work a very traditional average job in this economy. So we're not made out of we're not overly wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing what we can. I recognize my bracket.
Yeah. Right. And speaking of which, I was looking over your Instagram a bit, and I was kind of just going through all the posts, getting like a gauge, looking at your numbers, stuff like that. I came across something interesting. And if this is too much inside baseball, you don't have to answer it, obviously. But there was a comment on a couple of your pictures or videos from an account called Evil Travis McKinney. Who is Evil Travis McKinney, and where did this account spawn from?
Okay. Miller, his name is Caleb Miller, and we can absolutely tag him and make sure he listens to this podcast, and don't even tell him where in the podcast I'm talking about him. He just has to know that I'm talking about him. Let's make him listen to the whole thing. We're 48, almost 49 minutes in so far, so we're going to make him listen. Caleb Miller he was one of my best friends from back in college. We actually went to different colleges, but we were in group chats together. We actually were still in the same group chat from college. There was a group of us who were all competitive lifters at the collegiate level, or collegiate age rather, in Wisconsin. There was about 6 of us in this group chat, and we just send memes back and forth. We would make memes about each other, and Caleb is absolutely the clown of the group. And I mean that in the best way, in the most endearing way. We love Caleb. He was incredibly strong when he was in powerlifting. I think he got a couple of injuries or his back broke down or something. So he's now CrossFit. We judge him about that, by the way. But he had a 760 deadlift at 242. His bench, I want to say, was like 430-ish, poverty bench. And he had I'm nearly certain he squatted over 700 raw. raw and sleeves. So ballpark in 1900 total, mid 1900 total. He was strong. He was very strong. But this guy is a clown. He's a jokester, and he would make memes about all of us. And I was very much equipped. He was very much raw. He was USAPL raw sleeves, and I was at the time I was more, APF, XPC, single ply, multiply. Even though I competed in multiply divisions, there was one meet, at least one or two meets that I still wore some single ply equipment, even though I registered as multiply. We were very opposite, but we were best friends. So he made the evil Travis McKinney page, and then I made the evil Caleb Miller page. And in 2022, I want to say, in 2022, I now found out the reason after the fact, but my original Instagram account got banned. It got banned because all of these bot accounts that keep commenting underneath everything, I would try to screw with them. So I would comment under each of them, buy my feet pics, buy my feet pics, buy my feet pics. And they'd say, it'd be this very stereotypical, very normal comment.
Yeah.
DM us, you have great content. DM us for use or something. We'll pay you to use this video. It's like, I hit a squat triple. You're not going to pay me to use this video. So I commented, I would copy and paste. I would say, buy my feet pics underneath each of them. Come to find out, I now learned this later after the fact. I would comment quickly, in quick succession, and it flagged the Instagram's bot detector. So I got a warning. I'm like, I got a warning. It never told me what I did. My account got suspended for 3 days. I had no clue what I did. It never gave me any warning. So I didn't change my behaviors, and I kept doing what I was doing before. It wasn't until about a year after my account got banned, and the account got banned, wasn't about a year after that I started seeing comments about, hey, my account got banned on Instagram, or on Reddit rather. My Instagram account got banned. What do I do? And people are saying, well, these are the common things that get your account banned. And one of them was commenting in quick successions. And I remembered back, I'm like, God dang it, I did that. I kept doing that. So when my original account got banned, that's why I have the 2.0 after my handle now. When my original account got banned, the only other account that I had was the evil Caleb Miller page, and it also banned that account. And I'm like, I never even did anything with that account. I never even hardly used it. So I've debated about remaking one and not telling him, but he still comments under the evil Travis McKinney page, and my evil Caleb Miller page got banned.
Because I saw that in the comments, and I was like, did Travis make another account?
That is not me. It is not me.
I was like, or does someone really hate this guy? I was like, man, this dude has some nuclear heat with somebody to make an entire fake account. Like, holy crap.
No, Caleb and I are like best friends. I've been friends with him for so many years, probably at least a decade now.
That's
nothing
awesome.
but things to say about Caleb.
That's awesome. Also, that is a great idea. I can't believe I haven't thought of that. I consider myself a really good shit talker, but I haven't thought of that yet. Well, outside of the sport, I mean, you stay very busy guy. What do you like to do outside of the sport? Like, do you have any like hobbies outside the sport? You just kind of working all the time? What does your life look like outside of powerlifting?
So in 2006, prior to 2006, 2004 maybe, I started playing RuneScape and fell in love with RuneScape. Everybody did. Unfortunately, I'm probably one of the very few in the world who did not get 99 woodcutting. I'm sorry. Sorry, I suck. But I started out playing RuneScape, got me into MMOs, and I love online gaming. I was never good at first-person shooters. My hand coordination sucks. That's any sport that involved a ball, not me. That carries over to first-person shooters. My coordination is not there. So put me in an individual sport. In 2006, coming off of RuneScape, I bought the game Guild Wars. And I was just walking up and down Walmart one day. I would have been probably about 11 years old. And I had a little bit of birthday money left over. And for $20, I found Guild Wars. Guild Wars was right next to World of Warcraft, which is what all my friends played. Their parents bought them accounts. Actually, the people I'm talking about, their parents play, and they actually might still play. But very much a gaming community. Guild Wars just by looking at the box, it looked to be a lot of fun. It had similar graphics. It looked cool. It was an MMO, and there was no subscription fee. So now, fast forward, actually, as of the day of this recording, we are about 20 years exact. No, that would have been earlier this week. I'm just coming to this realization. this week marks my 20-year anniversary of consistently playing Guild Wars. I've been playing that game longer than I've been lifting. Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, we're not going to talk about the amount of hours I have logged in, but remember, it's over 20 years. We're not going to go there. Um, yeah, we're not going to go there. So I do that, and I'm not even not gonna be casual about it. Not gonna underplay it. I'm really, really good at the game. I've been playing it for 20 years. I hope I'm good at it. I've done everything I want to do in the game, and I just still keep playing. So there's that. There's the games. I do have Call of Duty 4, the original Modern Warfare from 2007 that I rebought on the computer a couple years ago. And at this point, it's all the bots. So I just kill bots in there every once in a while if I want to play for 15 minutes. Um, I do not do a wide amount of gaming. It's just a couple of games I've been playing forever. Rather than being brand new at new games over and over and over and spending that money, I stick to the same 2 or 3 games and just play those same games basically forever. I don't evolve. Um, my palate quit developing when I was 5. Um, my girlfriend Lindsay, she runs her own pottery business. So if you pay attention to my story at all, she's all over it. She is thriving right now. I don't know how much I should talk about it, but because that's very much her thing. But it is growing very fast, very quickly. We're very thankful that she's killing it as much as she is. She really is doing a good job. She really is. But so we go to art markets and farmers markets, art shows, and we sell her work. So that is a very good. That's her income. It treats us very well. Our dog, we spend a lot of time with our dog. That dog gets spoiled to no end.
Yep.
Our dog probably gets spoiled more than many kids do, most children. But again, we don't have kids. We have
Yeah.
our dog. And that dog he's treated probably better than children would.
Yep.
That's really about it.
That's awesome.
I support Lindsay in her work and which, by the way, she works for herself. She's an entrepreneur. So I support her and her things. I carry the boxes. Don't act like I have anything to do with her business at all. I just carry the boxes and help her set up.
Yeah.
She does. I mean, she competes in strength sports as a hobby. There's some, yeah, she competes as a hobby. There's some health stuff so that she doesn't put her time more into the pottery and the gym, which is totally okay. She still gets like 3 days a week in at least, sometimes up to 5 days, but it depends on the pottery season. She did a strongman show yesterday. She bounces back and forth between powerlifting. She's done single ply. She's done raw. She does strongman. And so, yeah, I'm there to support her whenever she does that. She's got her business. We've got our dog. I do a little bit of gaming. Honestly, my downtime is really just active mobility or a little bit of cardio or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't have any real hobbies. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Dude, I definitely feel it with the dog. I have a 3-year-old pug and like my life revolves around him. Like everything revolves around him. So I have one of my cars is a 2007 Toyota Yaris, right? And it's a hatchback. So I took out it was a 3-seater in the back. So I removed all 3 seats and I built a platform so it would be flush with the back where under the spare tire is. That's all for him, so I can take him everywhere. So now he has like a whole area in my car. It's just like completely, dedicated to him. Dogs are the best, dude. I don't think we could ever overplay how great dogs are, man. Like they're so good for the soul, dude.
I will not. It is not a secret. I will proudly state it. I like dogs more than people, plain and simply. I have never had it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to double down, but there are very few dogs that tick me off. There are a lot of people that tick me off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody who has worked a day with the general public, anybody who works in retail, anybody who's worked at a coffee shop. If you work with the general public, people are going to tick you off. Yeah. Dogs, just pet them, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I remember Louis Simmons, when he would say, "You lock your girlfriend in the trunk, you lock your dog in the trunk, oh, in the trunk, girlfriend be mad, dog be happy to see you." Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't advocate either of those things, but you're right. I mean,
he is not wrong. He is absolutely not wrong.
Yeah, dude. So you are currently in Wisconsin. Were you born and raised in Wisconsin, or the military bring you there?
So born and raised, Wisconsin has a very little military presence. Actually, our National Guard is pretty big, but that's all local people anyways. No, born and raised here. I grew up about an hour away. And then went to school about 30 minutes in the opposite direction, went to college about 30 minutes the opposite direction, moved over to Appleton where I'm at now. The the girl at the time got a job over here. We moved together. We went our separate ways very shortly after, and I decided to stay. I stayed in the area,
Oh.
which I'm very happy that I did because now we're establishing our life over here, and it's great. I actually really like the Appleton area. It is growing very quickly, but I was also a part of that growth. So I'm going to complain, but I shouldn't. I was also a part of that problem.
Yeah. Right on, dude. So a few more training related things before we depart here. One of the things I want to touch on is, you're very intuitive with your training, but with that intuition, is there a set amount of days during a week that you are squatting, benching, and deadlifting? Like, I'm going to squat once a week. Like, what I do within this day is going to be intuition, but this day is going to be squat, this day is going to be bench, this day is going to be deadlift. How does that look for your training?
I'm still trying to, I'm going to say, refigure it out. When I was so going into personal life a little bit, when I was in my master's, do it all online at the time or predominantly student loans. It was not a big deal, but I had to focus on school. As long as I made it to 2 lectures a day, the rest of the day that I could either train or study. I mean, it would be both, but train or study. I could do whatever I wanted when I wanted. It was great. It wasn't the real world. Shortly after that, I started working 1099 and did not make a whole lot. I want to say that I probably filed for about 20,000 a year, so it was not great at all. But then uh, it was supposed to be in 2025, but it kept getting pushed off. In January 2026, what I was doing 1099 turned into a W-2 position. So instead of being an independent contractor, I got hired on full time, full pay, benefits, all that stuff. So finally had to pay, which by the way, I finally had to pay into my taxes. So that means I'm an adult now this year. Finally grew up. Now that I'm working a regular 8-hour workday, I have an hour commute, basically 10 hours outside of the house. I have to re-look at my training, and as a way that my training is now. And I don't know if I would recommend doing this for somebody who's just starting out, but I've also been doing this. I've been lifting since 2007. So I got 19 years of lifting. I started competing in 2010, 16 full years of competing. Been doing this long enough that my body's needs are different than somebody just starting out. I feel like I actually can get away with a little bit less volume in some ways. But so where I'm going with this is I still try to do standard conjugate split. In what order? Dynamic upper, dynamic lower, max upper, max lower. Dynamic max, upper, lower. I try to do that. What actually happens is oftentimes I'll do my accessories first. I'll finish with the main movement, and it'll get to be like 9 or 9:30 p.m. I don't get to the gym until 7 p.m. So that has also been a challenge. Just with my work schedule, I don't get to the gym until late when everybody else is leaving. So spotters have always been an issue, but now it's an even bigger issue than it used to be. Um, I still try to do that standard dynamic upper, or dynamic max split. I usually do my accessories first, do a really solid warm up, do my accessories first. I can finish with the main movement. If I rush through it towards the end, I can mess with rest periods. That's fine. But then I usually have one day that is full body accessories, and I just hammer accessories. It used to be 4 days a week I would go to the gym. Now I'm trying to go. I know that there are accessories that are being skipped during the week. So if I can have one dedicated accessory day, I feel like my weekly volume, which by the way, I started tracking weekly volume as opposed to daily volume. That I pay more attention to the weekly side of it than the daily side. If I have one day of dedicated full body accessories, I feel like that gets my weekly volume to kind of even out. Now, if I don't have to work, or if I'm not working that day, or I get let off early or something, I usually try to do what usually ends up happening is full body 4 days a week. If I'm being honest, there's some aspect of full body. And what I mean by that is on a squat day, I might hit 2 sets of a high rep tricep extension, or I might do a set of 100 dumbbell press with 10-pound dumbbells on a deadlift day. I might hit a couple hamstring curls on a bench day. So I'll do something for the opposing body part on the other day that I'm training. I might toss in a little bit of lower on an upper day. I might toss a little bit of upper on a lower day. That I feel like has allowed me to increase my cumulative volume. tricep extension. I might just walk into the gym and do 3 sets of 20 tricep extension and then move on to my lower body day. I'm getting something in because it likely might get on my upper day just because of timing.
Yeah.
It's a new challenge that I haven't had before.
Yeah. It's interesting. Also can kind of like tie into that conditioning aspect we were speaking about, right? Like being conditioned for the meet, just like in general, obviously general health as well,
Mhm.
kind of plays into that. But yeah, wrapping up here, man, I wanted to let people know, obviously the WPO is it's a big topic, right? Especially for Multiply. A lot of people, want to see you there. So
Mhm.
we're hoping that this year in 2026, we will see Travis McKinney, God willing, at the WPO. Hopefully, I'm going to keep pushing him in the direction as much as I can from here. I'm all the way up in Washington, so I don't know how much I can do, but I'm going to try because we all want to see you compete, man. You're absolute savage. Go ahead and plug your social media where people can find you, interact with you, and follow along, man.
Yeah. On the WPO comment, I will openly say I want to go. I do want to go. If I can make it, I'm fighting and I'm working season. You do have a season like this, or in my employee contract, there is a separate clause. Like, it is for a week. I am going to try to make an argument to go. It really does follow my employer.
Yeah. We'll start a petition.
I appreciate it. That is my WPO comment. I want to go. I would love to continue going. I would like
Yeah.
to. It really falls on PTO, and I am fighting my employee contract with that.
Perfect, man.
But socials, my Instagram is the main one that I use. Is TKinneyV 2.0. Middle initial is V, last name McKinney. Take off the MC, and my first initial is T. And then 2.0 because, as we talked earlier, my first one got banned. I will also plug so Lindsay's art account.
Mhm.
That is, I'm gonna double check, but it's art_is_dirty.
Yeah, that's not one you're gonna want to forget.
art_is_dirty. Nailed
Perfect. Perfect.
it. And if you go support her, you're supporting me as well. So I'd greatly appreciate it.
Right on, man. All right, thank you so much for joining me, Travis. I really appreciate it, bro.
Yes. Last thing I got here, last thing I do want to plug here
Yeah.
is I've been hanging out with the strongman community quite a bit. We train with a bunch of strongmen on Saturday down in Oshkosh. There's a large strongman presence. We are really trying to grow the powerlifting community as well. We're trying to start a more of a community. I don't know if you want to call it a community powerlifting team or a crew or whatever you want to call it, but we're trying to get more powerlifters. I don't care if you're USAPL, if you're Raw, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you're doing. If you want to train powerlifting, just come lift with us. I make it no secret. I'm out of Appleton. Oshkosh is about 20 minutes south of us. We have a semi-private gym. I'm saying semi-private, but it's a semi-private gym in Oshkosh. We train out of a public gym in Appleton. So if anybody wants to come lift with us, just reach out to me. We are trying to build more of a presence in our area.
Awesome. Right on. Well, thank you very much, Travis. I appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course, man.